Let's escape into fiction.
Yay!
That's what
Return
my
to
week's pretty much been.
return to the actuality. So, do we want to get a recap of last week?
Yeah, because Dave wasn't here.
I wrote
You've
it
got
down.
Dave's notes.
No, I wrote it down myself.
Hey!
Someone had to.
Well, you can write the notes this week.
No, because it was really hard. You're really good at it. So ultimately, we started with Hawk's awakening, and the decision that they needed to get away from the tower. And as we were leaving, we were noticed that some of the scary horses turned up at the tower as we were trying to get on the train. Because it turns out that they were after
Scary horses.
The stony faces.
and they're scary
It was a Death's Triumvirate.
Oh,
The Thar.
oh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
scary horses. They turned up, but they're actually were looking, but not necessarily for a hawk, but not realising it was her. Oh yeah, Roland does an amazing swishy coat move off the train to divert their attention. That was it. And then we had the Watcher card, and so instead of going back to the Rose, we decided to go to the Hendessa headquarters because we needed to get Hawk Junior, as I've put her in here, back to Shadow. And so we went to go see Agent 64. He was there, and I've written he is a little renegade, more for the Invisible Church than the Triumvirate. So he's more on.
Oh yeah, because we didn't know if the Hendessa would be a safe place to be, because they're kind of government and like the Thar are kind of government, but apparently the Hendessa are kind of more for the Invisible Church than the government, and it was kind of a sanctuary almost. They couldn't come in.
Yeah, because we said try and get. It's not usual that anyone would deliberately go back to Shadow, but in this case we needed to get her back there. Time is wibbly wobbly, timey wimey, which is why it was okay to return her, as long as everything, because everything has to work out for a reason. Then the next card was the Ambassador. Oh yeah, we helped her return using kind of a subtle knife type style slip into
Thingy.
Shadow.
Because we'd said that it was like a weak point in time where there'd be other weak points, kind of more aggression going to Red Sun and things like this, because they'd pulled so many people out in the early days during this one location as like a weak point they could put her back through.
So there's a specific room within the Hendessa headquarters that is particularly. When Agent 64 addressed Mistress Hawk, both of us responded, which is unusual because normally you have a different identity within Shadow, and I didn't have a different name. And it's the clue to remembering what. It's the first one of our first clues to remembering what happened before Shadow and why, where my sister might have gone. Used not summoning circle. I don't know why that was.
Yeah, kind of, but not really.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Store's own brand summoning circle.
Yeah.
You mean this isn't butter?
Because of like the weird lights and stuff there, Snowball knows that he has two shadows. Send her back to when. Okay, yeah. So we decided to send Hawk Junior back to the moment where she'd brought the outfit that she was wearing, and then takes this memory. That's all I've written. And then she said, "I'm glad I'm going to become you. Can feel the changes." Yeah, and so there's like a kind of like a load of like a memory flood because everything she goes back to
like a mind meld.
Yeah, and so I end up like getting thrown backwards out of space that we're in. The next card was the imprisoning ice, and then Hawk blacks it out. And then she ended up going to a recovery room and 64 and Snowball chat and play Spiderweb. And that was pretty much.
And also that I'd updated with we'd had a side scene last week of Snowball having a chat with Eliana, and when she came back pre-Caliburn arriving back. Bless you. And long and the short of it, Eliana came back and she knew that she was stronger. She'd come back with Vizsla's hand, like full on bronze and 6 fingers and everything. She knew something had changed, but she didn't know exactly why. But she felt it was for some purpose, and some purpose at a specific time, and that time hadn't come yet. But she felt it was a positive thing. But we chatted about Caliburn, and she had kind of looked wistfully at a picture on the bar of Caliburn and she together, and like, oh, I just wish she was here. And then like the ground rumbled and the sky shook, and she's like, Caliburn's on her way back. And she brought her back. She pulled her out of the invisible sun. She has the power to do this. But also in that picture was a picture of Hawk, kind of maybe in that outfit actually. That would be good. And she mistakenly also pulled Hawk out of shadow again. So she was the reason Hawk came, with her powers that she didn't really understand how she was using them.
So, yeah.
Wibbly wobbly, timey wimey.
But yeah.
So the first card of the week is the mysterious rune. Words are spells and spells are words. Runes encode words. They hide them in plain sight. Store them. Decipher the rune, you gain its meaning and thus its power. This is the 9 of Secrets. The alt text is, can you decipher what the book holds? Generally considered a card of good fortune by Vizsla and bad fortune by Nons. Nons is like a name for people that can't use magic, effectively. There's mystery afoot. There's something important that can be discovered if the person in question looks for it. Specifically, looking for something in a book is considered a good idea after this card is turned. So that kind of gives me the question, where are you all and what are you doing? So we can like fast forward through to the next day, or we can very quickly kind of montage what Roland was doing to lead the Thar off, or
really cool montage scene of Roland kind of running through back alleys and kind of firing off shots and getting people's attention, and then running down other alleys.
And doing that whole kind of thing where you run sideways and then you run sideways again. You're like, how did they do that? How did they do that?
Kind of not as
Scooby-Doo style.
Not as goofy as Scooby-Doo, but a similar kind of like all of the trickeration sort of stuff in Pitch Black, where he's over here, but then he's over there, but then he's over here, and yeah.
Totally Scooby-Doo.
I can imagine Vin Diesel in Scooby-Doo now. That would be brilliant.
Triple X do.
They pull off Xander Cage's mask and they realise that it's just Toretto. They pull off Toretto's mask and they realise it's just Riddick hiding out on Earth.
pull off Riddick's mask and it's whatever his character's name was from the pacifier, and he looks mighty sheepish.
He wasn't the pacifier, that was The Rock.
No, that was Vin Diesel.
That was Vin Diesel.
Oh.
The Rock was the Tooth Fairy.
Oh.
The Tooth Fairy was not a good film. Pacifier, brilliant.
Yeah, Pacifier's pretty good.
Oh, I love it.
We did have it, but the disc's missing.
Yeah.
So you were saying that you wanted to, Charlie, you had an idea.
So Hawk's out for the count a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But Roland knew where we were going.
Yep.
So he kind of leads the Thar off and then comes back to us after they've given up chase or whatever. Because as well as that, we thought the Thar only came after her because so Agent 64 told us that sometimes the Thar put trackers on people. When they come out of shadow, it pings, and then they try to go and find that person. Now, for some reason, Hawk didn't ping when she came out as her, but she did ping when she came out as this Hawk
Hawk
Jr.
Jr.
So, but in theory, the ping has gone away again, so Hawk's not being tracked anymore. But we don't really know why she was tracked or anything like this. But part of me thinks if Roland comes and joins us and I play Spiderweb until she comes round, then we could ask Agent 64 and have a look at some of the records, because they must have records of people going in, out, and backwards, and
they might even have records in the form of a ledger,
exactly,
book.
exactly.
Do they have any record of my sister that I now remember?
Well, exactly.
Let's do that.
Because she disappeared though, didn't she? She didn't necessarily go into Shadow via the normal route, and we don't know if she's even come out of Shadow.
Even if that's where she is.
But they might be able to give any sort of things on Hawk's original entrance and exit from Shadow.
I don't remember what it is that I got my mind wiped for.
Yeah.
And that might be a while before we find that out, but
yeah.
You know.
Okay, so
Where is she? What's she know?
probably I reckon about an hour later, Roland kind of comes in and is escorted in by one of the other agents that work for this particular branch of the Hendasa. And Spider's Web is one of those games that sometimes the game can be over in like 3 moves, and sometimes you're playing for weeks on end. And the rules change as much as, pretty much anything else. If you think of it like Mornington Crescent, but with a board, and so on. So,
I've got a migraine just imagining that.
yeah, but because it's Magic, the board can change based on the rules that you're using.
That's what I'm thinking. So this is the 3-tiered board as per the Prussian amendment of 1803.
Eastern Prussian or Western?
Eastern, obviously, because we're only doing it monochrome. If it was multicolored,
obviously.
Yeah.
Obviously. No. Here's the sad thing: is the fact that Tim Brooke Taylor won more games of Mornington Crescent than anybody else on history. Yeah. Anyway, so you're playing this game, and do you reckon that you beat him, or is he winning, or how are you playing this game, Snowballed?
Is it like Mornington Crescent where it's just about Bravo and kind of making crap up, or is it actually a game?
It's both.
I think we're fairly evenly matched, and I'm not kind of either trying to stroke his ego or trying to pull punch or like to beat him hard, but just playing well in a respectful manner, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And so you kind of go backwards and forwards. You'll take a piece, he'll take a piece. You'll get 2 pieces back, he'll get 2 pieces back. You'll capture a level, he'll take the level back again. And it's just a very, I think he plays a fairly cautious game anyway. He kind of has to, because of his nature as a Hendasa agent. And your kind of your standard thing is to play, a fairly solid set of defenses. And you've got these two defensive games kind of playing against each other. You probably find that this is one of those games that's going to last for years, and then there's going to be, you know, a mouse that trips over the board in between sessions of you playing this one game in like 6 months' time, and then that's going to move a piece, and that's going to topple the whole house of cards that each of you have you've made for it. And then Roland kind of comes back in, you know, pretty much at the same time as Hawk comes stumbling bleary-eyed out of this recovery room.
That looks like I've slept for weeks. Makeup halfway face. Drool.
You're so sexy.
Yeah.
So 64 kind of like says, okay, well, I believe we may have to leave this game for another time, Mr. Stowbold.
Save. Yes.
Pause button on that.
Mhm. You know how you got like those foldable puzzle mats?
Yeah.
I reckon these are in kind of like foldable pockets of holding, like Kelly has, and you just kind of pack it away, and as long as it's kept level, it can be quite small, and you can just like Stillboard's game, Spencer's game.
That's cool.
Or maybe there's a thingy on it.
A Pop-O-Matic.
Gimbal.
Oh,
Gyroscope.
there we go.
Yeah, gimbal.
Gyroscope.
Yeah, there's a gyroscope on it.
I like the idea that it's like you kind of keep on unfolding it and unfolding it and unfolding it and unfolding it, and it just comes to like the size of a beer mat or something, and then the full thing is absolutely.
It's like trying to fold a fitted sheet.
I've got to write that down.
Impossible. People say it can be
I saw a Pinterest thing on it, and it's some kind of like there's some magic point, like 2/3 of the way down and 1/3 of the way in, and stuff that you just pull it, and it kind of folds itself. Like, that's witchcraft.
Yeah, like the t-shirt folding thing where you like pinch it in one bit and then like, and it works. But I can't remember.
I can't do that.
They've gone.
Although that has made me think, I do want one of those like t-shirt foldy boards, like what Sheldon had in Big Bang Theory. You just put your t-shirt on it and you go boom boom, and then the t-shirt's all folded up nice and small. Boom boom, boom boom, boom boom. I know what I mean.
I know what
you mean, Dave.
I know what you mean, Dave.
I'm going to Google t-shirt foldy thing.
Words and screenshots of them.
So you kind of go over everything that we've gone over already, and Agent 64 kind of he kind of steeples his fingers. He says, generally speaking, the records of the Hadassah are sealed for a reason, but I believe that given the nature of the situation at hand, as long as you were escorted by a suitable representative, we can allow brief access to the files. Whose files are you looking for?
Her own.
The filing system that we have here is somewhat incomprehensible. And he kind of takes you into a room, and
This is just basically a posh way of going, we don't file.
well, they do. They do.
Such a random, convoluted way that they file.
He's definitely a government employee.
Yeah.
It's akin to my clothing filing system.
Oh my goodness, no. That's just that's just bad. That's just bad. So I was just trying to find a picture of the way I'm picturing it looking, and yes. So
We're kind of imagining like Harry Potter with all the little baubles full of memories and rub them, and you could just kind of think of
Like
things, and they come.
pensives.
No, when Sirius got taken into the archway,
Azkaban.
what's it? No, not Azkaban. In the archway, there was all sorts of memories, but they weren't in pensives.
Okay. What I'm thinking is that it looks sort of a bit like that in the background.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got like rows upon rows upon rows of these just kind of semi-illuminated round just kind of input things, and they've all got like a button or some kind of lock on them or some kind of access code, and you need to find your own one. So if I can get a roll from Hawk, please.
Before we roll, try 1919.
Okay. Yes. What, like 19 rows across, 19 from, like.
Mm.
Yeah.
But try 1919 because it's probably 3-dimensional storage.
Yes. Let's do that. So, want me to roll something?
Yeah.
What do you want me to roll?
If you've got anything to do with like memory or recall.
I don't think so, but we'll have a look. No, I don't.
Okay.
So, it'll just be an intellect one, I guess.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. So you kind of know where yours is going to be, and then Roland says, "Oh, if you try, just give it a go for 1919." And I totally kid you not,
What's that say?
devil. Because this game is totally and utterly not magic.
I need to make my own not magic this one.
Devil. This is most often a sign of danger, but its interpretation can focus more on the devil's tools than his aims, charm, persuasion, and honeyed words. But beware the insincerity of such things and the lies they conceal. I'm thinking that it's the same thing. So just as Hawk is kind of walking along, just almost with your eyes closed, just kind of sensing which one of these record packs that you're in, and these walls of these things go down for miles. It's like a folded space, and the one that you hear, oh, try 1919, and then you touch out on the one that you know is yours.
Yeah.
And that's the one.
Yeah. So yeah, I touch it.
Yeah. And the glow shifts from the kind of soft white to a very, if I said a gentle, vibrant purple, it's like not pastel. It's a real rich kind of velvet goth purple that you can imagine Hawk wearing, but it's a very soft
I think
colour.
I have a dress that has that purple in my wardrobe.
The colour of Prince.
Yeah.
Yes. And
the colour formerly known as purple.
Best shade of purple going.
yeah. So this round thing just kind of flips round. That colour, yeah. It kind of flips round, and then on the inside there's like a file of some sort. I don't. What does Hawk's file look like? Is it a leather bound ledger, or is it a journal, or is it like one of those full manila envelopes with a treasury tag on the front of it?
What Well,
I
yeah.
Patient notes.
I think it almost looks like a smash book. You know, when they've got like bits of collage all over them and bits of stuff coming out and crazy creative.
Yeah, so it's like that quintessential American teenage wedding guide
Yeah.
that they've been building up for like their
It's
entire
like
life.
a Pinterest board, but in reels.
Yeah, but that's what. Yeah, totally. So there's bits. It's about yay thick, but there's like different, not fabrics, but different like types of paper and all sorts. It's
Mhm.
just like, but yeah, yes. But ultimately, it's quite like an ornate bound thing, but just with like lots of stuff in it.
Okay. And so what's going to be described in this is going to be a history of Hawk pre-exile to Shadow. I think quite a bit of it you know.
Mm.
The
Well,
fact
it's
that
not like a museum of you, though, is it?
no,
So it's possible because, like, when you go for a procedure or something, you normally have to answer certain questions. So I think it's those questions answered, but
almost
in
like a stored consent form.
yes, but it's not just like it's the basics, kind of your name, your weight, your height, your ethnicity, all that jazz. Probably your family structure.
Yeah.
Probably has, you know, have your parents ever had problems coming out of shadow before? You know.
What were their roles in the war? All that kind of stuff.
Well, this is pre-war, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
you went.
Oh right, yeah.
This is a so it's going to be and it's going to have that kind of old typewriter that there's like a misstroke on one letter, so every time the A is used, the circle at the bottom of the A is like filled in, and it's like hand typed.
Yeah.
Then every so often there's a bit that's like tipexed over, and then it's rewritten.
Jessica Fletcher's typewriter. You done all them murders.
And there's a couple of bits which are like sort of hand filled in. So it's got all of your personal details and, you know, where your house is, and it's got like a consent form to allow to effectively have your memories suppressed. And the fact that there's no guarantee that the Handasa would be able to get you back out of shadow again afterwards. And then it will say, it also have the whole, you know, have the question of, have you any relatives who've already undergone this procedure to be put into shadow? And then there's going to be a kind of little note saying see Appendix B.
Okay, we'll look at Appendix B.
So you go back to Appendix B, and then there's almost like again going with the whole folding theme. It kind of folds out, and you've got one of those big, almost like, I don't want to call them murder boards, but you know, in the police
With the red
dramas,
string.
yeah, with the red string of them. So there's like a map of Fartown and a map of the rest of Saturnine and the surrounds, and then like a picture of your sister at the top of it, and it's kind of investigations. And then you remember that you spent ages after she disappeared putting this together,
Trying to find out where she was.
trying to find out where she'd gone. And from a lot of people, she was like missing completely, almost as if she'd
Never existed.
she'd never existed in the first place.
That her file wasn't there.
Mhm. And then you've got this, you know, attached on one of these parts of it, you've got a similarly hand typed.
I hate when they conspire.
You've got a similarly hand typed report from the Hendasa response for request for information, and it says we can find no record so we can find no record under the name, and then where the name is,
It's redacted.
it's like black tape redacted. Apologies for the inconvenience on this, and it's quite a stern.
Yeah, it's like, it's like what do you call it? The Trump report on his dealings with Russia.
Oh, the
A shit ton of black on that page. What was it? Mueller report.
the Mueller report.
The Mueller report is just a load
See,
of black.
you were going for a real world recent example, and I was just thinking of that bit in Good Morning Vietnam.
Yeah.
Haven't seen it.
It's Trump's impeachment papers, which is redacted stuff.
Okay. So I'm just looking something up. Oh, that's thrown you. Right, okay. So, and you, so you've got that, all of those parts there where it's like showing out what kind of preparations were made for you going into Shadow and so on, and it's all signed, and you recognise your signature, and it then kind of cuts to the part where you were pulled back out of Shadow, and it's got like the standard rehabilitation notes. So you were amnesiac.
Is there any mention as to why my name didn't change? Would that kind of thing be in there?
It will be in there, and noted that the unusualness of the fact that your name in Shadow was your name that it is here, and then it
I
wasn't.
think there's possibly like an official note saying, against strong guidance from the Hendasa, subject has chosen to keep her name through the procedure. We have kind of a, hey, we told you not to do this, but she wanted to do it anyway. So
Yep.
Like Hawk, because your Hawk is spelt with an E, isn't it? But in Shadow, it was spelt without the E. It's a different name.
Remember that?
Okay. Oh.
Oh, that's not a good noise.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just wonderful. Right, just notes for myself for some other time. Just close that web page down so you can't cover it. Yeah. And
Not worried.
is it just me trying to see what he was reflected in his glasses?
can you actually see that much in the glasses?
No.
No.
There's I could just about, because I know what you're looking at, but I couldn't before.
Okay. And
Ships on fire off the shoulder of Orion.
I can see that you got the chat function up because there's a white strip along the side, and I know that you're not chatting to me, so I think you're chatting to them.
I don't actually have the chat function up. That is the white strip down the side is the light in one of the
Oh.
things. But I have the actual LEDs behind the monitor and pointing sideways, because if they point directly at me, I cannot see anything. Yeah, even the kind of the more yellow one.
Jersey did it to himself.
With all the power of the sun.
And Agent 64 kind of he's been standing a respectful distance behind you, and he kind of, everybody that stood behind him, so Roland and Stobel will see him kind of almost reach out a very tender hand to almost touch your shoulder, but then he kind of stops himself, and the professional Hugo Weaving takes over.
I'm going to turn to him and say, do you know why this is missing? Do you have that knowledge? Or know somebody who does have that knowledge?
Which,
in regards to Josephine being completely wiped out of the redacted stuff.
Who has the power to redact?
Hmm.
Probably the question.
Roz.
Wazowski.
I was just a bit freaked then because we had a lady called Roz who worked with us who was the only person who had the power to redact on our database, and I was like, how do you know that?
Because this game is not magic.
the ability to completely remove somebody from the actuality in both the present and the past is powerful indeed. There are few such individuals who would have that ability. It would be too easy to misuse. I fear that whoever has enacted this redacting, if it's been done for nefarious purposes, guard yourself well against them.
That's not ominous.
It would involve not just amending our records, but the records of every organisation that keeps records. The Goetics, and he kind of indicates at Roland, the Order of the Vance, the Deathless Triumvirate. That would be an awful lot of records to affect. I would suggest possibly, if you can find anyone that can access deeper into your own memories, that may be the best place to start.
Having my head messed with. Oh, yeah. Seems to be a theme here, people. Yeah, we have to then. Because I don't remember it. I remember my sister, and I remember that.
What do you remember about your sister, though?
That we had our apothecary prior to the war. That's all. Just remember that we had our own store.
I wonder if you,
But that's all.
if you can remember that you had that you had a sister,
Yeah.
that her name was Josephine, but you can't remember her face. You can't remember what you did, how she laughed. Because I was thinking the other day of our wedding, and I was like, I find it quite hard to remember my own memories from it. I remember things through the pictures that I now have of my wedding.
Yeah.
It really took me some work to remember what I had seen through my eyes of that day. And I wonder if you remember those elements, but maybe you can't remember.
But it was the trigger. It was like I couldn't remember having her at all until
Mini Hawk
came through.
Yeah.
And she had this look about her that wasn't me, but triggered the memory that there was. I had a sibling, and then that was enough to remember that's how we were before. I don't remember her anymore, if that right. It's sort of like her disappearing might not necessarily be, that's potentially what happened to her, but it's almost as if I know that she was there, but I also know that she's not there. And it's almost as if it's like, is it a real memory? But no, it is. I know it is, because I remember that much. And obviously now there is...
And that's proof that she has existed, actually.
Well, yeah.
But the mere fact that there's information that has been tampered with.
Because the book says that I have a sister, and
Yeah.
her name is not there, but
Yeah.
that I had a sister, but that's it.
But also that you were looking into the disappearance before you went into shadow. What were some of the things on this murder map?
There is the location of the apothecary that you had.
Ooh. Is it possible to copy this, or because I imagine they won't want us removing the Hendessa file?
If you have magic of some sort, you could take a copy of it that way.
Do you know what? I've got the
I think
exactly
I
the thing
have
for it.
something.
Where's it gone?
Have I? Oh. I do have something. If you don't.
Well, if you've got something.
Okay, I have a level 1 spell called Sketch. I have the proper implements, pen, chalk, charcoal, canvas, and so on. I create an intricately detailed and absolutely accurate image of what I'm looking at, all within about a minute's time.
Oh,
Fantastic. Can somebody try and make a persuade roll to persuade Agent 64 to allow you to do that? Challenge level 6.
I could do that because I'm his friend.
Bearing in mind that you are under a -1 because of the Nemesis card.
Oh yeah.
And if you are secrets, then you'll be under -2.
I'm not secrets, I'm mysteries.
It's fine.
And I've got encouragement.
That only works on other people.
Can I not encourage him to do what I want him to do?
This is a green one. Do I give them up?
No,
I keep those.
no. The only ones that you give up once you've used them are ephemera objects and incantations.
All right.
So they're kind of brownie coloured ones.
See, I knew that would come in handy as a
Yeah.
So I've... What's ranged like? I've got
Shooting people.
Oh, okay. I've got encouragement and
Oh, encouragement, the skill.
yeah.
Oh, sorry, I thought you meant your hip flask.
No.
Okay. Yeah, go on then.
And can I spend some hidden knowledge?
Yeah.
So that's brought it down to 3. Is that right? How's this work?
So it was a 6.
Yeah.
What's your encouragement?
2.
2. That brings you down to 5. Sorry, to 4.
Yeah.
And a
Maths.
point of hidden knowledge will bring it down to 3.
Yeah. Wonderful. But am I? Did you just say we're as a negative one?
And you're at -1, so
So back up to 4.
yeah.
Okay. 6.
Okay, fantastic. So he kind of looks at you and shakes his head, and he says, "Very well, very well. Because of all of the work that you've done for us, then we can allow this this breach of protocol to go ahead."
And really, it's only her own information, isn't it? It's only what she had already written down and she had already created.
That much is true. That much is true. And he kind of also hands over a request form, which is a request for Hawk to actually be given a copy of this file in its entirety. And he said this might take a while to proceed through, but if Miss Hawk would like to take a copy of this picture, and then you cast a spell, and it's almost one of those ones where you've got like a sketchbook. I thought that was a bottle of whiskey then, Dave.
Who says it's not?
Whiskey and cherry Pepsi though.
That'd be alright.
I could think of a couple of bourbons that it'd be quite good with.
Not Jed.
Mind you, the bottles of lemonade that my mum used to take into when she had her dialysis, it was gin and tonic.
Yes.
didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll
Your
be,
mum's awesome.
yeah. Yeah. Pretty awesome. So yeah, so you've got this kind of thing, and you're looking at the board, and you're just kind of doing it almost automatically, and then it comes through. So you've got a copy.
I reckon it's like a printing.
It's just automatic because I can just be like looking at it and not drawing without looking at the page that I'm drawing, just the thing itself.
Mm-hmm.
See, now that you said printer, and I'm thinking like a really old-fashioned dot matrix printer.
With like the holes on the sides of the pages.
We had one of those. We had an Epson RX80 FT friction and traction, so you could have the little sprockets on the side for traction paper,
Yeah.
but it would do normal paper as well. It's an awesome printer. Put the light on.
Old school. I remember having them at school.
One of the guys that I'm playing a game with on every other Monday, he's housebound quite a lot of the time, so he does a lot of work remotely anyway. So he's got a Bluetooth headset for his computer. And every so often he'll kind of get off and he'll be in a different room completely, still chatting, making himself a cup of tea or making some.
Fucking MO, carry on without me.
Yeah.
We can do that in here with my headset because it's long enough to go from the thing to the kitchen. So when I was playing Dragon Age last night, Tina's like, "What's that noise?" Oh, sorry, I need to run in the tap.
So, what do you do next?
Let's go to this apothecary.
Yeah, let's go to the site of wherever it was that it mentioned. Where the building was.
That she had held pre. So, just putting some notes down.
That's cool.
Wonderful. Oh my goodness. This game is totally not magic. The unknowable truth.
Oh, we've had that brought up before, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
Yeah, it was one of those. I thought it was one of those that I pulled last week for my development stuff, but they were all a bit like, really? Magic, my. What are you pondering?
I'm pondering the two messages that I sent to Ross.
You're 19. You person.
I didn't say I was 19.
You personally.
You personally.
Yeah.
Dave.
Dave is in fact 19. That's how meta.
I didn't think of that. That would be cool. That'd be a bit meta, but it'd be cool.
Are you reading the messages I sent?
Yeah, yeah.
No, not Dave being 19. What you got?
Chocolate pillow cereal.
Chocolate pillows?
Yeah.
What are chocolate pillows?
They're like Crave, but cheap. Aldi Crave.
What's Crave?
I don't know what Crave is.
Kind of like a corn pillow shape, but it got like chocolate, like almost like
Nougat inside.
chocolate sauce kind of.
Why have I not known about this?
Because I think we've had them.
Dave.
Like them.
Dave.
We have had them.
You're
Yeah, they're not that. They're really good. Not in the household at the minute. Trying so desperately to get to 3.5 stone off, and it's like I've got 4 pounds to go. I don't think it'll be this week. Hopefully next week.
If you want to lose half a stone, cut your hair off.
No.
Have so much hair.
It really
It is so heavy.
it's not though.
It is heft.
Need to chop him. The end of crappy.
Okay, so you head to the location of the apothecary, which is in Fartown, and it's only about sort of 3 or 4 neighbourhoods across from the neighbourhood where Hawk was living, above Penn and Teller's. And
It's
walking
not
down the
Sesame Street, is it?
no, you get to the end of the street that it's on, and you get that kind of wonderful deja vu feeling. It's like you've been here before. Definitely, you can kind of remember it from dreams. But you know where you get, I don't know if it's just me, but you get those dreams where kind of places that you've been all get mashed together.
Yeah.
So I get one quite often where there used to be a game shop in Birmingham, and it was absolutely miles away. And to walk out to it, you'd have to kind of go through some of the sketchier areas of Birmingham. But that then kind of gets twisted on the fact where it was also going out towards where my school was, and it's kind of like layers upon layers of just like misremembered geography, and they kind of sit on top of each other. And you're walking down the street, and you're getting that very much that very feeling, and you kind of almost you can remember, walking down here with somebody, being excited to see this place where you're going to be setting up this business before the shop was there. And you can just also at the same time remember walking back along the street the other direction the last time you closed it after she disappeared. And so you've got both of those.
Lost you.
Oh, sorry, you still there?
Rose.
Okay, sorry.
I
Okay,
could
you're
see.
back.
Okay, and you've kind of got both of those memories stacked on top of each other.
The last one we missed what
The second memory was.
Okay, so the second memory is you can kind of remember how it was when you walked away from this place the last time, after closing up the shop for the last time after your sister disappeared, and you were just about to go into the shadow, so you'd kind of closed it all down ready and waiting for you. And both of those memories are like stacked on top of each other alongside, exactly that the coffee shop that used to be across the street from your apothecary, which is now a branch of Beano's, it used to be like a little independent family run thing, and you can remember exactly what order your sister would have had. So because you can remember kind of coming across the road with like the biggest, fanciest hot chocolate and,
Which is why I drink what I drink.
whatever.
My fancy order that I always get when we go to Beano's is what she used to drink, but not realising that's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
Well done.
And then you kind of almost with some trepidation, you take the next couple of steps, and then you turn to see where the apothecary was, and the building is pretty much identical to how you remember it. So I'm kind of picturing it's got like a bay window of lots of small panes of glass.
Yeah.
Have
you ever been to? You probably have the Black Country Museum.
I have, but I was quite younger.
They had like their mock like sweet shop and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm kind of imagining something similar to that.
Or like the sweet shop from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Yeah. So it's that sort of thing. And as you go in there, there's a phenomenal wave. And sorry, looking at it from the outside, and it is still an apothecary. And it is still, the windows are exactly the same. The door's been replaced somewhat, and but the signage is pretty much identical. And the name of the store, and you remember it, is called Ray's the Chameleon.
And that's what we'd called it.
And you remember, it's like, that's the sign. And you can remember.
I ask how raise is spelt.
Raise as into lift.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if the chameleon was called Ray. So
I was thinking the same thing.
I tend to you guys are like, it hasn't changed. This is pretty much how I left it.
Is it open for business?
Yeah.
let's go and have a look.
I'm gonna go in.
Okay.
Mm.
So you go in there, and as you open the door, it's got like a tiny glass bell
Yeah.
that does the tingling, which is like pretty much exactly what you remember. And every time you get one of these little bits, like the look of the signage, you can remember the smell of the paint when the sign was painted for you, and then the sound of the bell, and you remember that either you or she made that crystal bell because you couldn't find one in the shops that was the right sound for you. And the smell, and it's like the same beeswax polished dark stained wood. So it's part Charlie and the Chocolate Factory sweet shop, but it's also a bit like Ollivander's.
Yeah.
Got that sense from it. And it may as well be because he makes such a fantastic shopkeeper that the guy that's behind the counter is being played by John Hurt, because why not? And he kind of turns around and he says, oh, it's quite late at night, isn't it? Because it was sort of,
Yeah.
I don't know, I think maybe it's even early in the morning. Have we slept?
you haven't slept, but you're probably in the archives that long. That much knowledge in one place is bound to warp space and time.
Yeah.
So it is the next morning.
Damn you, library!
You've actually had physical Wikipedia drift. You go to look up the recipe for where cinder block toffee came from originally, and then 5 hours later you're reading exactly why Beeching closed all the railways down. That sort of store, yes. Maybe smaller panes of glass, but yeah, just that sort of store.
Because when you said that, I was just like, that is totally like Victorian kind of.
I like the ones with the drip of glass that make the wibbly wobbly.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Exactly.
A drip of wibbly wobbly, please. Is that how Hawk takes her coffee now? Just with the drip of wibbly wobbly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Come on, yeah, wonderful. And yeah, so the chap kind of behind the counter had his back turned, and he's polishing and dusting things, and I think he's probably got almost like you get those feather duster Swiffer things, but on like a telescopic thing. But he's got one of those that he's using, but he's not having to extend it or retract it. It's just kind of extending and retracting itself as he's dusting all of those windows. Yes.
Okay, for safe win. Yeah. That like Liverpool.
Georgian, yeah.
Yeah. And he kind of turns around and he says, "Oh, good morning, gentlemen, madam. Very early in the morning. I will admit I wasn't expecting to see anybody quite so early. How can I help you today?"
I'm going to be, I guess, quite forward. I mean, like, how long have you you ran this place?
Oh, it seems like it's been years. I don't know, I'll say 5 or 6 years, maybe.
Do you remember who owned the place before?
Well, before me there was the chap with the face, with the tongue and the predilection for eating ants. Before him, it would have been, I think, it would have been the original proprietors. Yeah, the two young ladies. So he was here for about 5 or 6 years. Then I've been here, yeah, about 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, and I stand just looking around going, well,
Do we know how long the war took?
It took N-1 years.
So no.
No.
Right.
I'm just like, and it hasn't changed. I am one of those girls.
He kind of looks at you and then goes back and he says, "Oh, that's
I reckon in one of the back rooms, he goes to the back room and pulls out a kind of a dusty photo frame, and you know, when in the old days people took pictures in front of their businesses on the first day of opening, and
like the picture that you've got in the rose."
Yeah.
yes,
Yep.
and it's a picture of Hawk and her sister outside the apothecary, so she can see her face.
Like Doc Brown and Marty McFly.
Exactly.
Okay.
I've aged, but only a little bit. Like me.
No, you have not aged.
Well, no, it's like 19-year-old me in America. It does look slightly different to 36-year-old me,
Hair colour.
but only hair colour and slightly few wrinkles around here.
I'm going to say yes, however,
Mm-hmm.
because one of the aspects of the unknowable truth is it affirms and advocates for a conclusion. However, it indicates futility regarding a plan. Otherwise, it means that the answer requires more searching, perhaps searching elsewhere. So yeah, so there's a photograph of when the store was
There's a
first.
lens flare where her face was.
Josephine.
Exactly.
Yeah,
No, she's there,
Yeah.
but you know, if you do like a bad Photoshop job of just smearing somebody's face out,
Whoever redacted everything, they did a thorough.
The photograph was taken by J.J. Abrams.
They did a very thorough job of.
and he kind of looks at the photo, looks at yourself, and he I don't think it could be as dramatic as him dropping the photo, but he kind of he steadies himself on the counter. Well, I suppose that's it for me then, really. If you're back.
Like, honestly, Hawk's kind of like, I'm not sure about that.
How does property work here?
Yeah, it's like
Because surely if she like
Easy
walked away
explain.
and I'm done, would have sold it, would have
That's
given
it.
it, would have said, "Hey, somebody else come use this space."
You your houses are kind of yours. It's assumed that you've paid for them. They don't have any cost for upkeep or anything. It's quite unusual for business to have been kind of carried on after the war. You know, certainly a lot of Satyrine proper had to be physically rebuilt. Fartown itself wasn't incursioned upon, invaded as much because it is in a pocket dimension. So there was quite a bit of continuity between what happened before the war and what's happened afterwards. It's not had to be rebuilt as much as some of the other places.
Because he said he knew the girls. Well, he knew there were two girls running it originally.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's the anteater person,
Yep.
and then him.
That's the word, he says. Anteater.
Oh, I was imagining Otis the Aardvark.
Oh,
The actual puppet and everything.
So it's been open during the war?
yeah. I just like
Because they were there before the war.
I'm like, I don't expect to have it back. I think it seems to be in good hands. I was just here trying to find some memories, but unfortunately, it's not been. Like random.
I think, I mean, because I'm a cynic and things like this, I mean, because you left it, but clearly you left it in a state whereby somebody could just come in and start using it. So with stock and with things, and I don't want, you could be kind of, I don't want to muscle in what is clearly your business now,
Yeah.
but I did leave certain things here and enabled your business to thrive as it is thriving. So, if I need to come back and use things, or, how would that be okay, kind of thing.
Let's pull a card.
Because I was thinking maybe taking a look around. I remember maybe if a roll permits it, that I had stuff stashed somewhere.
The looming shade.
Like a nook somewhere, like under the floorboards.
Yes, I was thinking loose floorboard under a dusty rug kind of thing.
Oh my goodness, ghosts and spirits lurk everywhere. Most never interact with mortals. Some shades, however, prey upon mortals, looking to feast upon their fear, their flesh, or their very souls. The looming shade is almost certainly such a danger. It is terrifying, but it's not just idle fear, the threat is real. Do not ignore the threat that lurks in the dark just because you can't see it.
What's the alt text?
Do not ignore the threat that lurks in the dark just because you can't see it. An unexpected threat arises, an evil spirit, probably a dead spirit, attacks a living mortal. An NPC is terrified of something. So I think he says, well, I did sign a lease to run the store and for the ownership of it. I could dig out my copy of that lease just to see if we can find out what the legalities of it are.
Okay.
Yeah, because who are you leasing it from? Is it me, or is it some of the cheeky little mofo that bought the property after I left? Because he might be able to leased it from somebody else.
Or is it your sister who's like somewhere leasing from afar?
So he kind of again goes back into the shop room, and you can hear again a real familiar ratcheting clink, and it's almost as if like the same safe is in the same place. You can just see in your mind's eye that it's like one of those black cast iron safes with like the gold raised sort of text embossed on the doorway of it. And he kind of comes back out a little later, and he's got a sheaf of papers in an envelope of some sort, and he kind of hands it over and says, I don't know why, but when I took over the lease for the place from the previous man that was running it, I got 2 copies of this made. Most unusual. I just thought it would be the right thing to do. And he kind of opens it up to the front of it, and it states the landlords as being Adrian Hawke and redacted.
And you just see Hawk's face like,
But it says that the leaseholder is to maintain the property in the same condition that it is. Going through it very quickly, and I'm kind of picturing that Roland is going to be reading through this contract, because contract is as contracts does.
What he does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that there's like a leasehold fee that's payable into a listed account, and it's got the numbers of a bank account, and it's like a safety deposit box in one of the banks in Satterine, the greater Satterine district. And it's got a figure which is like, it would have been a moderate figure like 10 years ago, and by current standards it's like really low. So you see where, if I look back to comics, like when was it 2000 AD, when I was a kid, and it was like 9 pence.
there's a lot of money then, but
Yeah.
now, yeah.
And it's got that he signed it, but he is leasing it effectively from you, or from your estate, as it were.
If there's an estate, is there a lawyer?
Yeah.
Yep. And there's like a counter signatory of a lawyer's firm in probably the Marquis district.
So this is potentially
Lucky
stuff
Gorgeous.
that I'd done before I left.
Hmm.
In my memory, it was I just locked up and left, but there was a whole prep of stuff that went into before going into the shadow.
Yep.
This was one of them. Yeah.
Possibly, because originally I thought that you were going into the shadow because she'd gone, but maybe you'd both planned to go in together, but she got taken before that. I'm only thinking that if you went and saw Lawyery Man,
Yeah.
if she was there with you doing those things.
No, I think
No?
it was a decision for me to go on my own with my name as a potential to try and see if that's where she was.
Okay.
I know the shadow is a very, very big place, but I didn't want to be here with stuff that was looming without her, I think.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
But just kind of, even though she wasn't there physically, I still wanted her to be named on stuff because she was my business partner.
Mhm.
So, with all that positive hope that she'd come back.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
Okay.
think I'm happy to, like you say, keep him. He can keep leasing the property for however much he has.
You've got a new stream of income.
Yeah, but because I didn't know about it, so why try and be greedy about it? But I'm happy for him to lease it. But if I do need to come here for ingredients or whatever is such that I can do. Yeah.
Okay.
Is there anything about the property that I remember, like a hidey hole or something?
Yep. There is a basement.
Ooh.
Or the entrance is under a. Do you know, like when you go, some pubs have their like cellar bit underneath, and there's a hatch behind the bar.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like the hatch is behind the.
He's got a rug that he's kind of placed over it, and you can tell that this rug hasn't been moved for quite a long time. And he starts, as you go to kind of move the rug to access the hatch, he's getting really like agitated and fidgety.
I feel like what's the problem? I remember. Have you ever been down there? Have you been
No. I can't. No. It's a cellar. It's no. You shouldn't. You shouldn't go. You really shouldn't go under there.
Gonna make an intellect or perception check.
Yeah.
Is my born awareness going bleep?
Yeah, you know why? What is it?
Can you both give me a level 5 perception based?
I'm gonna check a point of sortage in there. 5 and 6.
Okay.
5 and 1.
5 and 1. Okay.
How do we do perception again? I'm sorry.
Basically, if you've got any skills that basically you're just trying to, your Borno vision is going to be kind of pinging.
Yeah. And I can read people.
Yeah, he's under some magical compulsion to not go in there, to not go down into the.
Is it like the Doctor?
Like a perception filter.
No, like when he's going, no, I can't look at the pocket watch. I can't look at the pocket watch. I can't do the pocket watch. And when he does, all the bad comes out. There's a good reason why you shouldn't be looking in it, especially considering the thingy shade.
It's something like that. So there's like a magical compulsion that's stopping him, but it's not affecting you guys.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm like, have you ever been down there?
Why would I? I can't. You shouldn't.
Why shouldn't we?
It's wrong.
I'm going to open it.
Okay.
It's not me.
No.
Or can we open it? Is it like, is there a latch or is there a lock?
Yeah, you move the rug out the way, and aside from dust and probably a couple of copper coins that have slid under there, the hatch is still there, and it's probably got like a sort of fairly well maintained black iron hasp and eye on it, so there's not a lock or anything on it because you never kept it locked.
Okay.
So you lift it up, and there's a suitable kind of. Oh, my chair's not going to creak. And he kind of like takes a couple of steps back and then sits down into a big, overstuffed leather armchair that's in one corner of the shop, and he's shaking his head, and he's got his head in his hands. And yeah, there's a ladder that's propped up to sort of climb down into the dark of the basement.
I know basements don't normally haven't boded well for me previously in this game, so I'm going to be very cautious climbing down into here.
Can we put a light on down there in some way?
Yeah.
Yes. Let's
that.
let's not do the stereotypical. Oh, there's something scary in the basement. I'll just go down in pitch black and hopefully nothing will happen.
It's like I automatically remember there is a switch. So as you climb down, there is like a pull cord.
A switch, not a Wii U.
What do you mean? I want a switch. Can't have one.
I will admit I am very, very, very tempted by a Switch and Animal Crossing.
But can you buy Switches at the moment? No.
Just on the vain hope that I'm going to be on Twitter and then notice that what's-her-face, AOC's left her code open just to get one of her sweatshirts.
Oh, it's pretty cool.
What's her name? The Congresswoman. Was it Alessia Ocasio-Cortez?
Yeah,
Alexandria, yeah. She's absolutely wonderful American Congresswoman. She's quite young. She's like late 20s.
Yeah, around 30s.
Whatever. And she speaks with so much passion. It is absolutely
She was-
amazing.
She was a waitress, and she just went, "Fuck this shit, I'm gonna do it," and so ran for Congress in New York, and got it. And
Wow.
she's not liked
No.
by a lot of the older male congressmen.
Yeah.
And she's quite. She's saying, "No, during lockdown, I've got this just to unwind."
Mm.
And then all these people are saying, "Oh, what are we paying this congresswoman to be playing computer games?" And every time people challenge her on it like that, she say, "How much does Mr. Trump spend playing golf?"
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, she's awesome.
and hearing her speak is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal.
It's like
So-
they keeps opening hers up to go buy turnips. I'm like, tempted. But,
The
yeah,
alchemist. The alchemist seeks transformation, usually in the sense of advancement or enlightenment. She hopes to better herself through understanding. As the adept of the secrets family, the alchemist is, of course, complicated. Her knowledge is deep and vast. You're going into a basement. Magical processes surround her, chemicals and substances, and the flame that catalyzes them all dance upon her fingertips. But her true raw materials are her own essence and her own soul. Makers often see this card as a good omen.
This is not magic.
Not magic.
We're going into a basement. Oh, chemicals and fire. What, like a boiler and all of the cleaning products that you'd use that people normally keep in the basement?
Divination. The alchemist's complexity suggests that there's far more to a situation than previously understood. Just as often, however, she indicates drastic and sudden change, a new opportunity, a new person involved, or a new facet to a problem. Should one turn the alchemist and the dangerous elixir consecutively, this is called the ultimate transformation. That's not the one I wanted. And the alt text is, the fumes of the alchemist's work offer her both bane and boon. Not magic. Not magic whatsoever.
Not frightened.
Yeah.
So I reach out and click pull this cord, and it's a chain.
And then the iron falls from the ceiling.
Yeah. Hits you in the face. Yeah, and a light comes on, I think.
Yep. So, if you imagine the way you'd got your workshop set up in above Penn and Teller's,
Yes.
okay, it's laid out pretty much the same way. So there's like a couple of shelves with like reagent jars on them, and one of those kind of pharmaceutical desk things with all the little wooden drawers on. That one there, and then there is a table that's got, you know, all of the glass work that you'd want to be able to use, and, you know, fairly standard, you know, Georgian laboratory, that style of things. I've just sent you a message, Kelly, with a question on, so.
Okay. Think about coming through. Oh, there it is.
And there is like a big ledger style journal, or there's a couple of them. Okay. And you kind of go to the oldest one of these journals, and it looks like there's about 5 years worth. So if you imagine a big chunky, you know, that
Does it
sort
look
of,
like my file?
no, it's like, you know, foolscap paper is a little bit bigger than A4. It's kind of that size that way, and very, very thick, and the paper is real. It's like heavyweight card rather than anything else. and it's a 2-page spread per day, and each one of these journals is a year, and there's about 5 of these journals. And you go straight to the first one, and it's got like details about opening the shop, and it's got, you know, receipts and expenditures, and then 2 separate signatures. One of them is yours, and the second signature is actually labelled "Raise Ye Chameleon Hawk."
The other signature is the name of the shop.
Okay. Does that trigger anything?
How do we spell this again? The one
Raise,
R-A-I.
I-S-E,
Right.
Ye, Y-E,
Right.
chameleon.
Okay.
Right, so is there a chameleon somewhere that we lift up that causes something to happen?
Is this an anagram?
Has your sister transmogrified into the shop?
What?
If we're living in a world where somebody can just have their body turned into
That's very true.
a fortress and stuff, could she somehow have been ensorcelled into the shop itself?
Potentially, but I wouldn't have known that. I mean, out of character, we had discussed there was something that the two of us had found out that I don't remember at the moment as to what was going on with the war, and ultimately that was why she disappeared.
And that's where I'm going to call it.
Yeah, it can't be because well, it could be an anagram of something, but it's definitely not her name because it's Josephine. So no crap at that kind of stuff. But damn it.
So summaries. Roland.
I've not gone any further on my arcs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Roland has any despair or joy from this. This has just been a day.
How does he feel about his whole sending the Thar running amok? Does he have any vested disinterest or any vested interest in thumbing his nose at them?
No, it's kind of like it's a professional disinterest, if that makes sense. It's, you know, they're just an obstacle and they're now out of the way.
Okay. So just 2 acumen.
Cool.
For that one there. Stowbold?
Using a anagram solver, alchemies is can be made out of Raise Ye Chameleon. Alchemized year. Anyway. I'm not really sure positive or negative about this. It's not been so much about him so much.
I'm going to give you a point of joy for spending time playing Spider's Web with 64.
And I think actually the fact that he's done us a favour through letting her take a preemptive copy has actually strengthened our bond a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll go with that.
And Hawk.
Well, well, I'm definitely firmly established in this story arc now. We're not like near any steps along it, but it's pretty cool. It's better than the last one. So, do I have to take joy or despair?
I would say there's quite a lot of joy of seeing a picture of your sister, even if you don't see her face.
Yeah, it's just lots of good memories at the
Yeah.
moment. Anyway.
I would say, oh sorry, Stubble to Acumen as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say, I would see it as joy, because you're retreading, things that happened before,
Yeah.
in the before time, which is generally a good thing. A good thing.
Yeah, definitely joy. Yeah. What?
I'm thinking.
Don't trust that face.
Cool. I'm gonna stop the recording.